yourself into the things that cost money as you work your way to where you're trying to be at. But over the course of 20 years, if you're in your early 20s, because right now the population of the show is between 25 and 67. So if you're like 25, 30 years old and you build your 20-year plan now, by the time you're 45, 50 years old, you should be able to quit working and not depend on somebody else financially. And you and your partner should be able to retire out of the game, and y'all should be able to live the rest of your life, the next 30, 40, 50 years together, enjoying life instead of struggling, living from paycheck to paycheck, dollar to dollar. Now, that doesn't mean that in 20 years that you must retire. It just means that you have the capabilities of retiring. So if you're 45 and 50 years old, you've been doing this for 25 years, you've got your next stage built, you've got your standard of living built, you've got two options. One, three options. One, you can quit your job and live off of what you built. Two, you can stay at your job and continue to build it to make it just that much better when you do decide to quit. Or three, now you've got more capabilities to take the extra that you have and invest it in ways to expand your success even further. All of these things require you, if you're doing this in a relationship, to be in the type of relationship with a partner that is financially responsible as well. Which brings us to today's show. Now, before we talk about today's show, we have one more thing we do on Sundays, which is questions and comments from the fans. This is a highly interactive podcast. I see you guys, they finally got everything working on Twitter. I see you guys coming in from Twitter. If you guys have positive, appropriate comments, feel free. You don't have to agree with what I have to say, but it does have to be structured appropriately. Um, but if you comment, you'll see yourself in the comment section, either at the bottom of the screen in the 16 by 9 or at the top of the screen in the 9 by 16. And you also see on the 9 by 16 the comment section when it does roll through on the show. Uh, so if you guys have a positive input that you want to put into today's topic, feel free to chime in, even if you're coming to us from Twitch, because I know I see Twitch up here as well. But we have not quite yet gotten TikTok under wraps yet, but we're working on it. Now, couple of updates before we get started. TikTok is still marching through pretty strong. We're starting to see some of the normal content that we used to see before the merger happened. So it's starting to level itself out a little bit. But we have not acquired that stream key yet, but we're still working on that. Next, we see the DHS shutdown. The DHS shutdown still exists. So flight security is not getting paid. TSA is still not getting paid. Show some love and respect for those individuals that are flying, that are helping you get on your planes and getting you where you got to go. Traffic control agents and stuff to that effect. Try to be respectful, because while ICE agents are still getting paid to pistol whip you in the street, the people that are checking your bags and helping you get on the plane are not getting a paycheck right now. And it's been that way since the 13th. So you want to show some patience for them, because that debate, since ICE agents are going to continue to get paid over the course of the next like 6 to 9 months, due to the big beautiful bill, the airport employees could potentially not get paid till April, the same way they didn't get paid until November. So we have, because the rest of the budget has been approved, they can argue this DHS thing until airports stop functioning, right? So we're going to keep following along with this. Now we've understand that things started stabling out after the tariff situation that happened last week, so we're going to keep following that as well. I have not seen any retaliations from that 15% that was put back in place, but you got to realize it was already at 15.4. So even though it dropped down and came back up and it's now at 15 even, anybody who wants a refund on the tariff that was taken are going to have to deal with that in litigation in small claims court, but that's, or not small claims court, but civil court, because the executive order did not release any of those funds. It just stopped the collection of those funds, and then they redistributed funds somewhere else. So that's all the updates that I have. Now we can roll into today's show. And like the first 15, 20 minutes of the show is usually us giving you a few updates, telling you a couple stories, get things kicked off before we ride that wave. Now, if in the event, remember, like and subscribe. If in the event, man, I'm talking faster than I think. If in the event that you ever missed a show, the show is on the live replay, but usually the first 15, 20 minutes isn't there. So any updates that you're looking for, you got to be here at the top of the show. So I want you to think for a second that, um, what about think about that first date because we talk about this a lot of the times, and I know that the social media is raving over who should pay on the first date and why shouldn't women do more and why should men do all the stuff that men do and where is the value, right? But if you think about how you're on a date, right? You feel like you're alone, you and the other person, right? That's not together the truth. There is a third wheel that's silently sitting at the table with you the entire time, and it's pulling a lot of the strings. This invisible guest is secretly influencing who you fall for and who might just quietly ruin your credit score. So, tonight we're going to be exposing this third wheel, which is your money. Okay. Because the core of everything we talk about on the show is how your money is impacted by society, how your personal decisions cost you money, and then how that cost puts pressure on your ability to make money because you're going to start demanding that extra money from your job in raises, promotions, overtime hours, and it builds resentment with your employer because when you're not capable of getting what you need to cover your financial decisions, that's when you get pissed off at your boss. Not your boss's fault that you can't afford to work there, but first person accountability, which is why we try to fix that here. And this is not just about who's going to pay for dinner, because I know a lot of the debates are about who should pay for dinner, why should they pay for dinner, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you first and foremost, women get men for financial security. Men get women for companionship and bearing children and everything that comes with that. Now, the difference between men and women is that a man has to spend 3/4 of his life to make it to what a woman considers valuable. A woman just has to exist and be of the legal age because technically, when you start talking about the legal age being as low as 13, once she crosses over puberty, her value exists unethically. And from that point until she passes menopause, her value exists. So she doesn't have to do anything but live, right? Now, since a man has to build his way to where he has to be, a woman should invest in the man that she wants, like a stock option, not like a ATM machine. And then out of her investment, she will receive, which requires her to evaluate this investment to find out if this investment will benefit her. If she finds that this investment benefits her, then she can commit to this investment, and that investment will reciprocate with capital gains for all of eternity, right? Now, that also means that women should approach men, women should take the men out on dates, women should evaluate the man's decision making skills. And then Michael says she's got a P and I got a D. That's typically what happens. But when you think about the fact that if she pays attention to his logic and reason, if she pays attention to his decision making skills, if she pays attention to his decisiveness, if she pays attention to his financial planning, his budgeting, what kind of portfolios does he try to build? What kind of end goal does he have? All of the things that would lead to I would make that decision if I was him, or I respect the decisions that he makes. In those situations, she's investing in the man to find out what kind of man he is so that she knows that she can trust his judgment. And then if she can trust his judgment, then she can follow his lead. If she can follow his lead, then he can do what he needs to do to get them to whatever success that they need to get to. Now, this also allows her to stop focusing on all of the other things that he's focusing on and start focusing on the things that he doesn't have time for, which allows for her to lead from the rear instead of leading from the front. Not too many women want that. Instead, women spend a lot of money on their looks. They expect the man to pay for everything else. And then she's going to be entertained by his money, not even him, his money. Because when you think about the dates that we go on, movies, watching TV, dinner, eating food, you can't talk and eat at the same time, dancing, the music is too loud, can't nobody hear anything. At no point in time are you getting to know the other person. She's being wowed by his stuff. Now, the problem with that is that if he's over exerting his expenses in order to impress the girl, while she is impressed, that's not going to last long. And whatever relationship that they're in, where she is comfortable with the standard of spending that he's doing, when that standard of spending declines, in her eyes, the relationship will decline as well, because she thought this was the standard, because she doesn't know how much he makes, she doesn't know how much bills he has. But 3 months in, 6 months in, when they commit, start moving into together, that's when she starts seeing this mountain of debt that he could have chalked up a lot more debt just trying to impress her. And now she's looking at, this is way too much responsibility. If they don't get the financial situation under control, that's when you start seeing the financial arguments for another 3 to 6 months. You're 9 months into the relationship. At this point, you guys end up in a position where you're probably going to start falling apart. The women usually emotionally remove themselves from the relationship before they physically remove themselves from the relationship, which is the last 3 months of this scenario. And now you're in a 1 year, 5 months, 6 days. Y'all just broke up, all this time gone because you started the relationship not paying attention to what's important. And that's what we're talking about today. So it's not just about who pays on the first date. But if a woman wants to know what kind of man she has, she should probably pay on the first date, specifically because if he's not impressing you with his money, what else does he have to offer you? The same way, if she's not impressing the man with sex, what else does she have to offer him? And those women that good careers, gone to college, and they claim that their job and their knowledge is value to the relationship, you've got to ask yourself, are you willing to live under your man's income and give him your whole paycheck for him to invest it and turn your money into multi-million dollars worth of assets? Most women would say no, you know. And the ones that do say no, your income and your education is not valuable to the relationship, because if he's a $55,000 a year man and you're a $60,000 a year woman, and y'all can live $72,000 out of 110 or $120,000 between the two of y'all. Michael said, after 70 years, don't worry, you'll figure it out. Hopefully, I take pride in not spending. If a woman don't like that, that's too bad, bro. I'm on that note. I'm on that note. But this is what I'm trying to tell the women as they come into the show. It's like, look, if you found a man with good decision making skills, you can trust him with the money. And if you trust him with the money, then you have the capabilities of giving him your whole paycheck. So when you look at the fact that if he's making 55 and she's making 60, she makes more money than him, right? So I'm giving y'all a dynamic where the women are in a better position than the men financially. Now, if they can live on his income, and then, typically it costs like an extra 15 to $20,000, like 50% more. So if it's a $55,000 a year lifestyle, it might be $75,000 to cover the two of them if we're doing lavish spending for her, but really just an extra $10 to $15,000 on top of basic bills, because her hair, nails, and girder belts and shit is really the only thing you're paying for outside of rent, light, gas, water, and all this other stuff. Uh, that is really the extra cost. So if they're good at 55, between the two of them, they're making like 111, 115, right? And you throw down an extra uh uh 15,000 for her, you're at about 75,000, which is putting you at almost 40 grand. Logically, you're at about maybe 75% of your income, putting away about 30 or 40% of your income. And the truth is, and actually you might be closer to 60%, putting away 40% of your income. And the truth is that doing that, you stay in a relationship, in 5 years, you're looking at $500,000 or so into the account. 10 years, you're looking at almost $1 million into it. 20 years, you're looking at a couple $1 million into the account. And all it took was for y'all to be fiscally responsible and not waste money on bullshit. But most women don't pay attention to that. Now, fellas, I'm going to be talking to y'all today about it from a different perspective, but that is my observation as to why I believe women should pay for the first date. Because if she doesn't know if he is a financially responsible person, she could be getting with a person that can cause her financial deficit. If he's willing to spend thousands of dollars to impress her and he doesn't know her last name, then ultimately he is willing to spend thousands of dollars on anybody and doesn't have to know their name. Go to the club, drinks on the house, um, frat party, drinks on me, blah blah blah. I'll pay for the trip, whatever, whatever. Flossing is what we used to call it back in the day, where you're throwing money at the event so that everybody can praise you for throwing money at the event. But The problem is that if she's dating a man that's willing to take the extra money that they have and give it to the crowd for attention, then at the end of the day, she doesn't have a financially responsible man, which means that she does not have what she's looking for if she's trying to build success with that man. And that's why I say she should pay for the first date because she can control the narrative now. Give him the ability to decide where they're going to go, which also shows his ability to make decisions, and then see if his responsibility warrants her ability to trust him with spending money, right? Because if she don't trust him with the money, that's going to be the first argument. Every time he says, "Let's do something," you don't know what the fuck to talk about, and that's that relationship doesn't work well. He says, "I can answer that. My deep blue eyes against my tan." Well, you're not doing anything with your tan. The book of the night is Everything You Want to Know About Sex by Dr. Rubin. That doesn't help, but it's an interesting book. It's not about love, but about money mostly. It is completely not about love because love is a choice. You choose to stay here, and we identify that as love. You put up with chaos, which is really loyalty, devotion, and dedication. We call that love. We don't know why we allow ourselves to be mistreated. We call that love. Truthfully, the butterflies in your stomach, which is the heightened levels of anxiety when you're in the presence of another person, that's identified as love. However, you don't stay because of love. You stay because of duty. You stay because of loyalty. You stay because of the financial investment. So, truth be told, the woman got into the relationship because of money. The man got into a relationship because of sex. As long as the relationship is convenient, they maintain the same. Once the money starts to decline, the sex will start to decline, and then the chaos starts to increase. Then the relationship stops becoming convenient, and then they part ways. And then you find yourself in another relationship and you keep doing this over and over and over again. But since 41% of a man's income supplements a woman's standard of living in the relationship, and only 23% of that she actually benefits from, the other 18% of that is a waste of money, which also means that if they came together and he supplemented her income with only 23% of his income and took the other 18% and invested that somewhere else, they would not be broke, which is why you have couples that are living paycheck to paycheck. Doesn't matter if you have kids. You're spending more money than you need, lifestyle creep. Michael says, I take my dates to Wendy's or McDonald's, and if they don't complain, then we'll move on. Shoo, you taking them to expensive ass restaurants. Boy, McDonald's is like $40 for two people. 55 if you get an extra. Damn. I was at McDonald's earlier today. I got some nuggets for the dog. I got a burger and fries for myself. I got a burger and fries for my pops. And I think we were right at $50 for the three of us. I'm sitting over here like, shoot. If I would have took a chick out here, we would have got the frappuccino. Probably would have got the little chocolate fudge cake thingy. Probably would have been like $75 at McDonald's. He said I didn't cut it. You never do. You got a lot of wisdom, but it's good to be the constructive criticism. I like the devil's advocate position some of the time, because I don't want to deliver the wrong message. But I'm also not a yes man, so you can't just throw something in the comment section and I'm just going to agree because you put it up there. Somebody put something in the comment section. If I'm like, I don't know, that don't sound right, I am strongly going to do some research on it, and then I'm going to come back the next day and show you how that's not right unless I've already got the knowledge on hand. So today, while we're talking about this thing, this is going to be about a silent judgment that's being made at the dinner table while you guys are on your first date, and it is an unspoken expectation, which is, like I said before, not just about who pays for the dinner, but this is also a type of compatibility, right? That has nothing to do with your taste in movies, everything you do with your relationship with a dollar. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Studies show that couples argue about money more than almost any other topic, including infidelity, with some reporting money related disagreements multiple times a month. For younger couples, it's even more frequent. And those arguments are a leading predictor of the divorce or the separation if you don't make it to marriage. This isn't a problem that starts when you move in together. It starts right now on date number one. And that's why we're talking about it. That quiet presence at the table isn't just the third wheel, it's the puppeteer. And for most of us, we don't even see the strings. So tonight we're going to be pulling back yet another curtain where we're going to dissect how the third wheel operates, why it has so many powers, and most importantly, how you can take back that control as you're going into these. And Steven, you're going to benefit from this more than Michael because Michael apparently puts a calendar on the outside of his door and just let women write the dates that they're going to come and see him. So he don't even apply himself to got the mailman talking about some be back tomorrow just to drop off the bills. Michael says, if I invite her out, I'm paying. If she invites me out, she's paying simple. Nah, fuck that shit. Okay, so again with that crap, I respect that observation, Michael. But here's the thing: the old saying of whoever does the inviting pays. The problem with that dynamic is that a woman will put herself in the position to be asked the same way I was telling y'all at the beginning of the show today about how I was sitting there talking to a couple of women while I was trying to get the phone. They both worked at the store. So it's not like I went up to approach some females. I needed somebody to assist me with my stuff. And I went to the store where the dudes that worked there were not there. So I went back looking for guys to help me out with technical issues. And all I seen was women. So I was like, fuck, I'll just grab whoever's not busy and just go there. Now, what ended up happening is though that's when we started talking to one another. But while the one that I ended up talking to, I told y'all earlier, was fawning over the fact that I had the intellect that I carry on the show because we actually ended up talking about some of the concepts that I talk about on the show, and it took about an hour and 30 minutes of us waiting on technical support before I told them that I even had a podcast because I don't even lead with that. And I didn't tell her what the podcast was, nor did I give her any links to the show. She just knows I do research all the time, and I know like what I'm talking about with these topics when I helped her with a relationship. But the thing is that even though she was highly interested in who I was, she made it clear that she was highly interested verbally, and that was the cues that I was supposed to offer her my phone number or ask her for her phone number or do an exchange of some sort. She even pulled her cell phone out while we were in the discussion. I had all of my phones on the table. So I had more phones than a drug dealer on the table. And I'm on each one of those phones at the same time trying to get this line connected. And at the end of the day, um, I never really cared about getting her contact information. The other person, more my type, but the other person actually needed help with math, college student. She's busy. She's working a full-time job. She's a full-time college student. She ain't got time to entertain me because then she's not going to be able to finish her dreams. For me to call myself trying to make a connection with that person, I would have to fulfill a role, which she found out that I provide educational services. Then when she saw my prices, she was like, whoa, she thought that I was going to do it for free. No. Again, by inviting myself into their space, I would be selling myself, or not selling myself, but giving myself away for the sake of a person that I don't even know that I like. If I'm physically attracted to the person, that doesn't mean that I'm going to tolerate their attitude. And a man is not supposed to put himself in a position to only go after a female simply because he's physically attracted to that person. He needs to make sure that that is the person that he wants to dedicate himself to, attitude and all. So before we open our wallet, we need to be able to make sure this is the person that I want, right? You're not going to get that a lot of the times because usually the girls pretend like they're so busy that they're trying to walk away and ignore you. You have to chase them down. A lot of people like this cat and mouse shit. I don't. I'm too old for that. But once you get them to stop moving and you're having a conversation with them, you start talking to them just enough to get their name, get their phone number, and then contact them later today or tomorrow and set up some kind of event where you're going to entertain them for the rest of the season. You need to spit. I actually like I said, I was on the phone with this chick for like an hour, not on the phone. I was in the store for an hour and a half before I told her, you know what, the conversation we had waiting on customer support was probably the best date you had, and I spent no money. Like all I did was sit here and talk to this chick while I was waiting on them to fix my line. And if I would have been interested in that person to follow up with, then I would have gotten her number. But I found out an hour and 45 minutes in that she had a husband and kids. Notice how I was able to weed out the problem without having to spend $1 today. I probably spent more money leaving my dad in the car than what I did talking to this girl because I left the engine running. But no, um, if she wants to go, if she is interested in the man, she should take him out and she should find out if he is what she wants. If the man is interested in the woman, she should take him out and then show him that she is what he wants. Women are going to say, that's not right. Why not? The man's role in the relationship is going to be primarily him funding her existence. The women are going to primarily put effort into aiding the man. She is not going to willingly and unwillingly, she's not going to be in situations where she's going to be spending money on her man. She's going to be doing things for him. He's going to be buying things for her. As a result, her investment into the about it, that's when it flickered. Now we're back on a different network. So, um, because like I was saying, if um if she invests in him, then she will know that that's what she wants, and then he's going to invest in her. So she's going to benefit from paying for the first date instead of him using his money. Because you got to understand, a guy with no game doesn't have to say or do anything. He just spends a bunch of money. A guy with no sense doesn't have to say or do anything. He just has to spend a bunch of money. A guy that doesn't have any money has to show you what he's worth. So if a woman pays for the first date, she will know what kind of man she's getting herself into because before he spends his first dollar, she can get into his mind. She can get into his inner spirit. She can find out what his core soul operation functions like. And if she likes the way that operates, when money comes into the fold, she can start finding value in how he spends money the way he spends money. And then Michael says, do you want to go Dutch? No, she should pay for 100% of the dinner. Matter of fact, you should split it to where she pays for 100% of the date and he picks the date. Why do you say that? Or why do I say that? First and foremost, if he's going to plan it and she's going to pay for it, she can see what his planning skills are like. And because he has no limit to how much he can spend on this situation, she can see what his budgeting is like. Because he's not paying for it, if he's a wise man, he is not going to cost her a bunch of money. He's going to find something simple, very cost effective that will benefit the both of them. Now, because she's paying, he can show her his worth without going down the path of breaking the bank to impress her. And because she's paying, she can put effort into this relationship to show him her worth, not just because she's paying for the dinner, but because if I'm going to pay for this, I need to succeed in this. A woman that's only being entertained on the date has no investment in the relationship. The first 30 dates that's at the man's expense, she has absolutely no investment. Her time is rented for his money. That's it. That's an equal trade-off, transactional. But when she starts investing into this relationship, she's got financial loss involved. She's got loss of resources and time and effort. Now she's an equal contributor to the success of the relationship, which is going to motivate her more to making sure that this one works. If a woman paid for 52 dates a year, she would change the way she approaches men. But a woman that is paid for 52 dates a year, doesn't have to do anything but show up and put on a bunch of makeup. Is the only way you're going to find out is by becoming vulnerable. You spelled that venerable, but I understand where you're going with that. Pain is a good lesson. You do need to be vulnerable, but the problem that you have, vulnerable, VUL, I know I had that problem too when I was trying to spell that word when I typed up the script. Spell check doesn't help on cell phones, not on YouTube. But vulnerable does help. But that's one of the reasons why the women need to be more vulnerable financially in a relationship at the first 5 dates, specifically because until she commits to his decision making skills, she should be financially deciding, I'm not going to pay for all that. But that also puts her in a position to be on the other side of the fence because whatever I want, you'll pay for it. Behavior leads a woman to touching all the shit in the store, and then the man that bought the whole damn store, now he's broke and he can't even pay for his own drawers. That's a problem. Not her fault. She didn't cause that. He caused that. But the relationship starts spiraling downward because when there isn't enough money to go around, she no longer has that lifestyle of everything I touch, I get. And then they start fighting over things. Then, likewise, she doesn't know how much he's spending on her habits. When there isn't enough money to cover the essentials, she's going to be mad at him because he didn't stop spending. But he didn't want to stop pleasing her, so he kept spending. This is the kind of stuff that it's an accidental failure in the relationship, and that's why we're talking about it today. He said, okay, I'll pay you, leave a tip. No, she can pay and leave a tip. She can pay and leave a tip. Only thing I want in life is someone I feel comfortable with, and communication is key. Right. All men want that, Michael. But the problem is that most men try to find that through finding a hot chick that they can sleep with, which is not the same. Now, since men want exactly that, someone that they can feel comfortable with, someone that they can communicate with, someone that they can grow old with, someone that they can share their success with, the man wants a lifelong partner. The woman wants a life of financial security. She doesn't necessarily need a guy that's going to pay for every single thing in the world for her, but she does want to know that when her money stops, that his money's going to cover the spread, right? So her core instinct is a financial investment, and that ultimately is going to be the reason why she should probably invest in the guy, not just pay for the dates, but if you want more out of your man, you need to put your man in a position for him to make more. Just like if you invest in a stock, you get more shares. The more shares you buy, the more dividends you get back. Just like when you invest in a company, the more money you put into the company, the more you're entitled back. Just like when you help somebody start up their career, the more you put into the startup of their career, the more you're entitled to back. Right? The more a woman puts into a man, the more she gets back. Special shout out to Mr. Biggs. Now, this is going to be because choosing a partner is arguably the biggest financial decision of your life. And it's time that we start treating it that way. Right? So let's get one thing straight before we get into it deep. Money is never just about money. It's a stand in for the security, power, freedom, and our deepest values. So when you bring all of that to the first date, it starts to bend reality. According to researchers, financial stress literally changes how we perceive the world and the people that are in it. So think of it like putting on a pair of money stress glasses. Suddenly, your date choosing a slightly more expensive appetizer isn't a simple choice. It's a sign of recklessness. Their hesitation when the bill arrives isn't just a moment of awkwardness, it's a red flag about their generosity or even worse, their financial stability. Even tiny financial moments become a high stakes character test. Michael says a woman wants to feel secure, a home, no worries about bills, and one thing about life, it's based on misery. But that's because if she doesn't get everything that she's looking for, her priority is to make sure that her partner is less happy than her. So no matter how happy she is, she's not going to make him happier than her. But no matter how miserable she feels, she will make sure that he feels 10 times more miserable. And I'm not taking knocks on women right now. The fact is that happy wife, happy life is because if she's not happy, you're not happy. If she's happy, you're not in conflict, but that doesn't mean you're happy. The majority of the relationship, the men are not happy and not talking about it because at least they can get some sex. That's but the men don't leave, right? They typically, a lot of them even take the disrespect, but the disrespect and the infidelity are like the two things that make a man leave. If he's getting the utmost respect from the girl, he might tolerate her cheating on him once. But if he's getting no respect from the girl, he's not going to tolerate the infidelity once. First time he catches her cheating, like that's it. I've been putting up with all this bullshit for all this time, and now you cheating on me too, and that's out. That's like the last straw in a relationship. So you've only got like 10 to 30% of men that walk away from a relationship. The other 80% wallow in misery and just try to make it work, hoping that she will improve down the line. They accept the for better or for worse, where the for worse part happens before the I do. And the worst part continues after the I do. And they hope that 10 or 15 years into this marriage that it's going to be worth it when she actually starts behaving more appropriately or more acceptably to his expectations. Is that even the Constitution states the right to pursue happiness. Happiness is not a guarantee. You definitely have it there, sir. Yes, happiness is not necessarily guaranteed, but it can come at a lower cost, though. And that's something that we don't pay attention to. Happiness can come at a lower cost. If you take the time to pay attention to the people that are around you, you can pay attention to the engagement that you have. And then you find yourself in a position where you recognize that this might be the kind of person I want to follow up with, right? If you're paying attention to the wrong things, you will find that this person will drag you down. Just like me helping my buddy save $1,300 a year on his phone bill. That's extra money in his pocket. But if he doesn't invest that $1,300 a year into the business, it's lost money. He doesn't have any excuses about not having enough money to cover the spread, but that doesn't mean he's going to be responsible. Now, if he starts using that to reinvest, taking that extra capital, generating extra wealth, then from my side, providing him a resource that he didn't originally have, I can keep him afloat and then help him excel. Most women don't do that in a relationship. Very few will be like, man, I know a better way to put more money into your pocket. Let me do, let me say, let me try. And then that helps, right? Usually I need. And that's one of the reasons why there isn't a scenario where the relationship excels if the man doesn't have the right financial decision making skills, which is why she needs to look for that. He said happiness can be homeless. That is true. That is true. Phone bill, is he living at? Oh yeah, he's the one that's living with his mom. You know who I'm talking about. He's the one with bad decision making skills. You already know who we talk about. Remember, I told you 2 or 3 weeks ago that I was going to give him a hand with this because he's going to benefit me down the line by doing this. Yeah, same thing. It took 2 weeks to get him. It took 2 weeks to get him signed up, though. He should have had that signed up like a month ago. That way, his next billing cycle would have been done already. But he's finally going to do it now. I don't know. It's up to him. I don't give a fuck. But the fact is that you don't always have somebody in your corner that's like, look, let me help you make money. Let me help you save money. Let me boost you up in some way, shape, or form. And a lot of times you don't get into a relationship with a partner where that partner is trying to make you better. Usually we get into a relationship where it's exciting, it's adventurous, there's a lot of intimacy involved, but he spends money and that's it. She might do a lot of stuff, but he spends money. She's not helping him make more money. And if she puts up half of the bills, that is less money that he has to pay on bills, but that's more money that he has to buy her stuff. So you're still broke. See? And this is why, as one UK study found, couples who frequently disagree about finances are significantly more likely to separate, which is why one of the key issues that we have on the first date is that you're not paying attention to their decision making skills with money. The conflicts starts in these tiny moments long before sharing a bank account even becomes a thing. And with dateflation outpacing the regular cost of living, the stakes just keep getting higher, with some reports showing the average all in cost of a single date creeping towards $200 for the couple, $100 a person. It's no longer just a casual meet and greet scenario, it's an actual investment. And you said, oh, yeah, we'll go to Wendy's. But like I told you, two people at Wendy's could cost you like $55. You go to an activity. I told you guys before, skating could cost you like $85 to go skating. Bowling could cost you $150. A movie, dinner and the movie could cost you $250. If you go to the Cobb Theater in Wesley Chapel, the dinner served during the movie plus two or three drinks could cost you about $150 to watch a movie in 3D. The seats alone are $50 for the two of you, right? It's an actual investment. He said, I'm cooking. Damn right. I'm taking, didn't I tell y'all that one of the best dates you can do is go to the grocery store, buy some groceries, make y'all favorite meal at the house, work together in the kitchen cooking, see how y'all cooperate with one another, how y'all follow each other's instructions, how y'all help each other out. That's a fantastic first date that not too many people do. Why? Because we're traditionally conditioned for the man to impress the girl. We got a peacock. And if we don't impress the girl with what we say, we have to impress the girl with how much money we spend. If we can impress the girl with what we say, then we're good. But if we don't impress the girl with what we say, then we're kind of stuck, right? Is that I can cook anything. I can cook anything too, but it's not about, oh, look, most of these chicks can't burn water in the microwave. But that don't change the fact that we're supposed to be doing it together, right? You can learn stuff from somebody just by how well we can cohabitate in this activity together. And instead of this activity being a loud nightclub or a crowded place, it could be the two of us in my kitchen making this work together. That's how we can determine if we can work together. That's just one of the ways, right? And it's cheaper. While yeah, you might spend $200 on the groceries, the groceries will last you 3 or 4 weeks. Y'all have leftovers. You're gonna probably make this in bulk, and then y'all are gonna be able to split the meals and be able to have dinner for the next few weeks. Y'all can follow up on because it tastes so much better the next day. Y'all can follow up on your first date by enjoying your second date. Maybe grab you a glass of wine, and now you've only spent an extra $40 on 2 bottles of wine, and y'all just sit there and just hang out and talk and communicate and learn about each other and dig deep into each other's core values. Because if you dig into the person's core values before you start committing to one another financially, you start finding out if their values meshes with yours. Worst case scenario, you got 2 weeks worth of groceries in your house prepared. Now you don't got to worry about lunch for work. It's a benefit, right? We got to change the way we think. The bedroom is the one place you're not trying to go. And reason being is because while a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I got to know if the sex is good. A man's sex drive declines as he gets older. A woman's sex drive is going to increase as she gets older. At some point, without the aid of Viagra, men are not going to have the testosterone to desire the sex that he used to desire when he was younger. The relationship is going to stop being about sex and start being about connection outside of the bedroom. The older he gets, the less it's about sex, right? Now, the older she gets, the more it's about sex. However, the difference is that she counts on him to make good decisions. And I keep telling y'all this for the last hour. She counts on him to make good decisions. So if he's not making good decisions, you're going to have a power struggle. So with any investment, you're going to see that you start looking for your returns in all the wrong places. Because if a man's buying her drinks and paying for the dates and he wants a return from sleeping with her in the bedroom, right? Then if you're not getting that, you start asking yourself questions like, is this person even worth it? The pressure starts becoming immense. I mean, there's that too. After you see it as much as I do, you don't want it. Yeah, but that's true too, because if you're a gynecologist, you're not going to be interested in it at all. You're going to be men that go to the doctor to be a gynecologist think, oh yeah, I'm going to be like neck deep in you know, but then when they start doing it for a living, after the first 15 or 20 of them a day that they look at, after a while, it's like, they're all the same. They're all shriveled up and right. So it after a while, it's just not there. The drive is gone. The drive is going to definitely be for the young people. The young people run down the hill and try to grab as many of them as they can, and the old guys walk down the hill and get whatever's left. Because I mean, I'm not chasing shit. I'm too old for that. But you got to understand that this pressure leads us to creating a silent checklist of deal breakers, non negotiable expectations for financial behavior. And these aren't the things that we talk about in the relationship or even during the first date. In fact, recent surveys show a huge majority of Americans have money related deal breakers. And the number one issue for over half of them is a partner not being truthful about their finances. The irony is going to be staggering here because those same studies often find that about half the people in relationships have lied about money to their partner at some point. So we have this massive gap between what we demand, which is honesty, and what we actually do, which is hide the truth. So, what are these deal breakers we're so scared of? Because it's not just about finding a millionaire. The anxieties are way more practical. Then the old guy walks down and gets them all. Well, truthfully, yeah, because the a lot of the times, just like when I had the girls fawning over me at the grocery the T-Mobile store, the fact is that you can grab a lot of attention when your value is observed by the women in your atmosphere. But when you show desperation, you show less value. So if my goal would have been to try to hook up with one of the girls in the store, they would have used excuses like they've got a boyfriend. They would have used excuses like they're at work and they're not supposed to date clients, company policy, all this other stuff. But because I could give two shits about the existence of these women, they could listen to how I communicate and then they decide he has the intellect that I'm looking for. What else does he have? Right? Not even paying attention to my money because I'm making a phone call from their store to another store so that they can make a change that actually cost me no money. So I didn't have to pull out my credit card. I did not have to pull out a business card and show anything. Yeah, we were dealing with a commercial account, but I did not have to show them my wealth in order for them to think, oh, he's dreamy. I didn't have to pull up in a Porsche. Matter of fact, this was a plaza and I parked the car on the opposite side of the parking lot. So they didn't even see me get out of a vehicle. I walked up with the dog. And it's a dynamic where I'm being judged for what I think and how I speak, not how much money I spend or what kind of car I drive. And I dress the same as I dress for the show. So and this shirt I got off of Temu for like $23. Actually, no, I think it was 15 because I got a 3 pack for $23. And as Michael said, make sure that y'all like and subscribe in the US. Ooh, got the hiccups. Now, for a huge chunk of people, short-term debt from credit cards or personal loans is a potential deal breaker. Think about what that really means. It is the fear of inheriting someone else's past mistakes. It's the vision of Your hard-earned savings being wiped out by your partner's old shopping spree. Because if y'all are trying to fix y'all's credit to buy a house, if they've got credit card debt or something like that, small loan stuff to that effect that's sitting there, you have to help them pay off their debts to boost their credit score up so that y'all can get cosign on the property. If they've got charged off accounts because they couldn't afford to pay their bills, you have to help them negotiate their charged off accounts to pay off those charged off accounts so that they can get better credit scores. People have this as a concern. For over a third of Gen Z daters, another major red flag is impulse buying. And this is going to bring me back to why I believe women should pay for the first date, because impulse buying is a dude like, oh, she's cute. Let me drop 500 bucks on her in the middle of a pay week. What? And usually it's the woman's debt. Usually it's both sides, bro. Actually, to be honest. Okay, so first and foremost, the women are going to generate a lot of debt when they are single and not interacting with dudes. Dudes are going to generate a lot more debt impressing the women. Dudes also generate a lot more debt souping up their cars and their stereo systems, video games, and guns. Um, Dudes will generate a lot more debt with child support and stuff to that effect, alimony and stuff like that. So it's kind of on both sides. However, single, no kids, no divorce, no alimony. Typically, there's more financial expenses on the woman's side than on the man's side because we're minimalists. Men are minimalists. We will wear the same outfit for 40 years as long as it still fits, even if it's got holes in it. But a woman will wear an outfit only once. And sometimes because she really wants to wear that outfit for this one location, for this one specific event, she will spend money she doesn't have to get that outfit. And now she's riding debt. Now, not to say that a man won't buy a car that he can't afford just so that he can ride in a better car, or pay for a house that he can't afford just to be in a better house. At the end of the day, a man will spend more money on overly expensive resources, not just this one outfit this one time. Now, these Gen Zers, these young bucks, are out there with like $5,000, $10,000 chains around their neck where they can't afford to put gas in their car. They're walking, but they've got more money around their neck than all the vehicles worth in their backyard for the rest of their family members because they're all living in a Section 8 house. There are guys out there that are just financially responsible, right? It's not just the females. But when you deal with impulse buying, that's typically going to come from women more often than it comes from men. Most advertisement is directed at women because women will compel men to spend money. Cars that have girls in it so that the guy can spend money. Beer that has girls in the commercials so that guys can spend money. Girls want stuff so that guys can spend money. They call it the pink tax or the dating tax, the girlfriend tax, because advertisement is sex sales. So use women to get men to spend money. That's really what it is, right? It's not about getting the women to spend money. It is using the women to get men to spend money. Sexist, I know, but it is what it is. Gen X carries the most debt, 46 61 age. Oh, from the ages of 46 to 61, on average over $9,000. That's a pretty low average. I'm guessing they're not considering student debt. Credit card debt, $9,000 is a lot. Yes. Now, when we start dealing with people with impulse buys, that's a person who can't resist the latest gadget that might seem fun at first, but to a um, generation that prizes stability, it just reads as a lack of discipline. So getting something just because it's cool is okay to the person who's getting it, but for people who are looking for more financial stability, that's a waste of money. And then there's the shadow of that bad credit, those 500 credit scores. because you usually start somewhere between 7 and 800 when you first get your credit score before you know you have credit. And then after you start making missing payments on things and having charge offs on things and not knowing what credit is about, your credit score tanks. Then when you start trying to get loans and people start talking to you about credit, then you realize, oh, I've got to fix this. But what was it before it got bad? Probably pretty high, which is why if you teach your kids about how to build credit, they can have high credit scores before they're 16 so that they can finance their first car if they were going to do that. They can finance their first house if they were going to do that, right? And a significant number of people are going to worry about a partner's poor credit score, which is why I teach you guys about fixing credit. A credit score is more than just a number, it is a report card on your adult skills. Your ability to be an adult is tested here. It tells a story about your reliability, your ability to follow through on your commitments. Because if you're not paying the people that fronted you a service or paying back people who fronted you money for whatever, you're unreliable financially. And very few women are going to check a man's credit score. But before you check his credit score, you check his decision making skills. Because if he's willing to spend $500 on a first date and he doesn't know your last name, he's probably got a bad credit score, unless he's rich, of course. And rich people can have bad credit scores too, by the way. A bad score is going to whisper of missed payments, broken promises, and a life of financial chaos. It is a wonder we're scared of it. Now, if these issues are so critical, why do we stay silent about them? Why do we dodge the one topic that could make or break our future happiness? The reasons are deeply human. Recent surveys found the top reason people avoid money talks is a fear of starting a fight. We're so terrified of conflict, especially in the fragile early days of dating, that we choose a dangerous silence instead. Other reasons include having different money philosophies or feeling like you're the more responsible one between the two of you, even if that's not true. We don't want to be judged for our financial habits, and we don't want to come across as judging their habits because you really want this to work when you're with this individual. You really want them to improve. This silence is a breeding ground for disaster. Research from Cornell University shows that more financially stressed people are the less likely they are to communicate about money. Let's try that again. The more financially stressed people are, the less likely they are to communicate about money. This is going to create a vicious cycle of anxiety and avoidance. So we put off the conversation, telling ourselves we'll talk about it when things get serious. Whenever we decide what serious is, right? And serious can be 10 dates in, serious can be 10 days in, serious can be 3 months in, serious can be like when we start asking you to move in kind of thing. Serious can be frequent sex partner. Serious can be redefined as anything, but we put it off until we get serious. Now, I've told you guys plenty of times before that honeymoon phase in a relationship, the first 3 months of the relationship, fundamental core of the relationship. If your expectations are not being met in the first 90 days of the relationship, it is harder to change the dynamic. If you lay down the concrete and let it dry, it is harder to reshape it after it's dried. But if you establish the structure as you lay it down, when it dries, you will be satisfied with the results. Now, data shows a shocking number of couples wait until they're practically at the altar or at least sharing a U-Haul truck before having that talk. And sharing a U-Haul truck means that y'all moved in together already, and now y'all are moving again together. Now you're talking about finances. But then at that time, the emotional and financial ties are already deep. It's a little bit too late. By avoiding the awkward chat on date three, you're setting yourself up for a catastrophic explosion 3 years down the line if you make it that far. And you're letting that third wheel steer your entire relationship silently and surely towards a heartbreak that, as much as people would hope, is mostly about finances and less about feelings. The dating landscape has fundamentally changed. And I've been talking to y'all about that for the last few years. What our parents look for in a partner isn't anywhere near what we're looking for today. There's been a quiet but revolutionary shift. Financial stability is considered the new sexy. Psychological and emotional stability and security is also considered the new sexy. He said, build a sound foundation to grow on. Right. But in order to build a sound foundation to grow on, you have to make sure that you have somebody that is able to grow with you. If you just impress them to keep them around, hoping that you'll sleep with them, then you're going to get the sex, they're going to get the money, but you don't have the sound foundation. Then the other issue, just like I talked about earlier today, like the issue that you have, insecurities about whether or not the relationship is going to last. If your partner is getting more attention from other people, even if they're not acting on it, you're going to be uncomfortable, jealous of the fact that you might personally feel like you're not good enough for the other person. And you might not be because you're not performing to their expectations because y'all never talked about the other person's expectations. Likewise, and that goes both ways. She never found out what he values. He didn't find out what she values. He did what it took to convince her to stay, and she sleeps with him. You're not paying attention to each other's interests, right? It's no longer about flashy displays of wealth these days, because in fact, for many, that actually becomes a turnoff. And that, like me and Steve are on the same boat. Like we ain't wasting no money on them. No, the new status symbol must and always should be responsibility, at least going forward. The numbers are going to back this up. Thanks to the economy, nearly half of Americans say a partner's finances are more important than ever. And recent survey shows around half of Gen Z and millennials actually find honesty about money more attractive. It gets even deeper. Over half of singles find a partner who simply pays their bills on time to be a desirable trait. Think about that for a second. The simple, responsible act of paying your phone bill is now a signal of romantic potential. Man, so my road dog, I gotta cover his phone bill. He must not be attractive at all right now. Oh, well, wasn't trying to. Double-edged sword. Now the new love language that is developing right now is actually a diversified portfolio. Not too many people think about this. And a well managed budget is basically a love sonnet. And this is especially true for younger generations who grew up in the shadow of economic instability. For many Gen Z daters who may have watched their parents struggle through financial crises, stability isn't just attractive, it is a form of self preservation, which is one of the reasons why women seek it. Most children, men and women alike, at least 82% of them, grew up in a single family house with mom, not dad. Now, With that being said, we're in a position where those kids are now adults. Mom was always struggling, working two or three jobs, doing whatever it took to keep the food on the table. The kids didn't have much, but they had what they needed, right? Now, as adults, those same women are striving not to have that future by any means necessary, including demanding a higher income man and sacrificing actual connection and happiness just for the financial security. They're using financial prudence as a luxury filter to weed out partners who might bring chaos into their lives. And this isn't always greed, which those gold digger videos presented as such, but it's actually very pragmatic. When you're facing student loans, insane housing costs, and stubborn inflation, you can't afford to team up with someone who is financially reckless. As one report put it, modern dating has become a form of risk management. You're not just looking for a soulmate, you're vetting a potential business partner for the most important venture of your life, which is building a future together, which is one of the reasons why I tell you guys to get your 20-year plan on track. Because if your 20-year plan is set up, you can now see which partner fits that mold. And this is going to bring us to the fascinating generational divide. Millennials who came to age during the 2008 Renaissance in our nice recession in that area when everybody was wearing those black and silver American flags and turning them upside down and stuff. Those are hyper aware individuals where they are highly tuned to the needs and expectations of money, but they also argue about it more than any other generation. They know it's important, but they haven't quite cracked the code on how to discuss it without conflict. Gen Z's, on the other hand, is very more pragmatic, with some studies showing nearly half would pick long term financial stability over finding love. I don't got to love you. We just got to make the money work, right? I choose to stay with you because it's physically convenient for the both of us, staying together for the kids, right? They're also the most likely generation to ghost someone over poor financial habits. So if you're spending too much money on the wrong thing, they won't even talk to you. They just walk away from the deal. Now it's easier for them to do because the person who's having the money spent on them can accept the gifts without any expectations to reciprocate. But that also puts them in a position where, since they're not invested into this scenario, when they find more stability somewhere else, they leave the cash cow guy that's wasting all of his money and go to the guy that actually got his finances in order and take all of the gifts with them. Where the cash cow guy is left holding the bag, trying to recouple or rebuild his finances from wasting it all on the partner that just left, leaving him bitter and resenting getting into another engagement with another partner because he can't afford to continue paying for these types of relationships. Now, for these individuals, swiping left on someone who's bad with money is as natural as swiping left on someone with a terrible bio. This new landscape has also given rise to a particularly nasty form of betrayal, which is financial infidelity. And this is the act of keeping money secrets from your partner, a hidden credit card, a secret pile of debt, sometimes a secret pile of cash hidden away that nobody knew existed in the midst of financial crisis, undisclosed spending where you're hiding the credit card bills, where you're not sharing your financial expenses while not contributing enough to the relationship and not explaining why. Michael says it's hard to believe there are people born in the year 2000 or 26 and have kids. Sure makes you feel old. Michael, in 1996, we had 15-year-olds with children. We had in 2005, we had 20-year-olds with three kids. it makes you feel real old. But those babies having babies, that generation between 95 and 2015, you've got 40-year-old grandparents right now, or great grandparents, because every 15 or 16 years there was another kid. So 32, you was a grandmother, and odds are 45, you're a great grandmother. And all of y'all are single. But yeah, it does make you feel old because you 71. So at 71, you got like five generations. When you talk to a woman that's 45, you think, man, she's almost half my age, but she's a great grandmother. That's deep. That's real deep. And make no mistake, many people are gonna find this just as painful as a romantic affair, having an individual with hidden financial expenses or hidden financial wealth. Some recent surveys have found that a staggering number of people in committed relationships, especially younger couples, have committed some form of financial infidelity. What's truly shocking is the paradox where Gen Zs is also the generation most likely to say that financial infidelity is at least as bad, if not worse, than physically cheating. So now you don't have to have an affair in the bathroom, in the nightclub. You could just put extra money on your Fortnite account and not say anything about it. And that could be the end of your relationship. You could buy some DLCs for your Call of Duty account or pre-order that GTA 6 and not say anything about it, and that could be the end of your relationship. You could buy you a second PS5 and see both of them floating in the pond, and that will end your relationship. It is that serious these days. So picture this: you've been with someone for 2 years. You're planning a future with them. One day, a collection notice shows up in the mail addressed to your partner for a credit card that you never knew existed. The balance is a five-figure balance. In that one moment, the entire foundation of your relationship cracks. It's not just about the debt, it's about the deception. It's knowing the person you trust have been living a secret financial life. So it's no wonder that for a majority of people, discovering a partner's hidden debt is an absolute deal breaker. Every lie, no matter how small, like hiding a purchase to avoid a fight, erodes the trust in a partnership that is supposed to be built on trust. That little lie about a $200 shopping trip can pave the way for a lie about a $20,000 loan. This is the dark side of the third wheel when it influence moves from unspoken judgment to active relationship destroying deceit. Okay, now, I know this was a lot. I appreciate y'all for riding the wave with me so far. We still got a lot more to go. And this is very heavy. And it can feel incredibly cynical to think that every date is a financial interview in disguise. And you might be feeling that this whole thing just kills the romance. But what if I told you there are ways to navigate this, to take control without sitting across from your date with a calculator? So, what if you could turn this source of anxiety into a source of connection? Before we dive into a step by step of how to disarm this third wheel and actually build a financial intimacy, I want to ask a small favor for you guys. If this conversation is resonating with you, if it is making you see a dating life in a new light, take a second, hit the like button, mash those reaction buttons while you're watching a show, but also hit that subscription button because we're committed to having these real world money conversations most people are too afraid to touch. And your support helps us do exactly that as we actually run this show live 7 nights a week. Now, let's get into how you can turn that third wheel into a trusted ally. The solution starts not with your date, but with you. Remember on this show, I never tell you to fix your partner. I always tell you to fix yourself first. This is going to be because first person accountability comes from self development and self improvement. Non negotiable expectations for behavior requires you to hold yourself to a higher standard before you can hold anyone else to that same standard. You cannot expect from someone else what you are not willing to do. So, before you can ever understand someone else's relationship with money, you have to dig in and understand your own. Every one of us has a money story, whether it's good or bad. You have a set of financial beliefs, a set of habits, and emotional triggers that were programmed into us when we were young. And that story dictates almost every financial move you make. So, to start decoding your own story, a great starting point inspired by university research is to ask yourself, how has money handled in my house growing up affected me? All right. Was it a source of constant fighting and stress, or was it discussed calmly? Was money a scarce resource to be hoarded, or was it used generously? Did your parents plan for the future, or did they live paycheck to paycheck? Was money discussions occurred in secret where nobody knew what was going on, or were they loud, boisterous arguments in open public in front of the group? Your answers are the blueprint for your own financial brain. If you grew up where every bill was a battle, you might be someone who avoids money talks at all costs because you link them with conflict. If you grew up with scarcity, you might be obsessive in saving, unable to enjoy the money that you have. Or if you felt deprived as a child, you might overspend as an adult trying to fill an emotional void. Understanding this isn't about blame, it's about recognizing your programming so you can decide what to keep and what to rewrite. Once you have a clearer picture of your own story, you can start learning to read someone else's. The key here is to be a detective, not an interrogator. You don't need to ask for their bank statements on the second date. You just need to listen and observe. There are a few incredibly effective low stakes ways to gather intel. First, there's the lottery question. Casually ask, if you won $10 million tomorrow, what are the first three things you do? Their answers is a window into their soul. Do they immediately talk about paying off debt, buying a home, and investing the rest? That tells you they're a builder, someone who thinks about security. It also gives you a hint. They got a shit ton of debt, but they are wanting to work towards improving that. If they decided to go first with investing and then taking the interest to buy the home and then pay off the debt, they might show you a little bit more financial stability because if you get rid of the principal to cover the debt, then you no longer have that principal. But if you invested the principal and use the interest in order to pay off the debt and buy the home, the $10 million is always going to be there, and you still have the debt paid off and you still have the house, which not too many people think about. So, what if you had $1 million worth of debt? You start with $10 million, you end up with $9 million, and then you buy a house, and you might buy a $2 million house, and now you got $8 million, and then you invest the rest. But if you put up that $10 million at whatever amount, 20% or whatever, and you're getting $200,000 at a time, that 200,000, well, at 20%, you're likely getting $2 million at a time. That $2 million at a time would help you pay off that $1 million worth of debt and buy you $1 million house every year, still holding that $10 million at the top and you'd be buying $1 million house cash up front every year. The difference between investing it first and spending the principal versus spending the principal and then investing the rest is the difference between the millionaire mindset and the broke mindset. Just paying attention to that one thing, the one answer to that one question. Michael says overspending from an emotional void will cause worse emotional feelings. That's deep. Actually, yes. That is complex PTSD. Not a lot of people pay attention to this, and psych majors pay so much attention to the fact that they're a psych major that they don't even analyze this in themselves. Complex PTSD is self traumatizing yourself after a traumatic event. If you have a void due to negative emotional situations from your childhood, and then you try to fill that void with short term gratifications, whether it's using drugs, drinking alcohol, or shopping sprees. And some people actually try to fill this void by working a lot. While you're distracted from the emotional distress, you're fine. But once the high comes down from the distraction, you have to face it again. And that compels you to go back and retreat the symptom instead of working on the problem. So it is extremely deep because the problem that you're going to have when you start having that emotional void from financial debt and the stress causes you to spend more money on drinking, the stress causes you to spend more money on smoking, the stress compels you to spend more money on partying, or you're going to buy yourself something nice because you haven't bought anything for yourself in a while just to kind of cover the void. Lifestyle creep, you upgrade your car from a 20-year-old car to a came out last year kind of car just so that you could feel like you've done something, but now you have more bills than you can afford when you had too many bills already, and it drives you deeper into a financial depression because even though you've gotten a raise, you've gotten a promotion, you went from a $40,000 a year man to an $80,000 a year man, and you still have to borrow money from your $30,000 a year brother or your social security father or your death benefits mother because you spend too much money and it's psychologically motivated. It is extremely deep, and we don't pay attention to these things. One of the issues with women that come out of low income environments is that their desire to have financial stability could be solely motivated on their fear of not having enough financial resource from their childhood. They're negatively treated by society as gold diggers when that's not necessarily the case. They are just not comfortable with not having enough stuff or not having enough money to pay for enough stuff for them to fill that void that they had from childhood. And they're not addressing that. They're not fixing that, right? But having somebody that tells you what they're thinking, that tells you that they're probably a builder, someone who thinks about their security, right? Or do they talk about quitting their job, buying a Lamborghini and traveling the world for a year? That might point out someone who sees money as an escape from responsibility. Neither one of these answers is inherently a wrong answer, but it tells you if their core value lines up with yours. Because if you're the kind of person that's going to put your money in the right spots so that your money will always be there for you, um, that says a lot about you. Versus somebody who's going to blow it all says a lot about them. Next up, free date test. A lot of men are doing this these days. In the era of crazy date inflation, this is more telling than ever. Suggest a date that costs little to no money. A walk in a great park, a visit to a free museum, a picnic. How they react to that speaks volumes. Are they excited about simply spending time with you, or can you sense a little disappointment? A feeling that a real date has to be expensive, that could be a red flag there. Their reaction shows whether they connect value with cost. Someone who appreciates a low cost date is showing you they're adaptable to focus on connection over performance. You're finding a person that's going to value you for who you are and what you're bringing to the relationship, not how much money you spend. Finally, there's the micro bill observation, and this happens in a small moment. Paying for parking, grabbing a coffee, it does work with splitting the bill. Watch them. Is there an easy generosity, a flash of anxiety, a sense of entitlement, expecting you to always cover things? Or is there gratitude when you do it? These tiny transactions are rich sources of data on their day to day financial attitudes. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You bring a chick out on a date and you ask her to pay for the meter, she going to flip out. Most of the time, they figure that you're going to cover it all. You will occasionally find a woman that don't have a problem with some spending, but have her cover parking, then have her cover the reservation, and then have the bill on her side of the table, she gonna get pissed off. Very few women think that a man not paying is a man observing her ability to be fiscally responsible. They're going to think that a man not paying is a broke man. First thing that's going to come out of her mouth is, why did you take me out if you couldn't afford to pay for this? Right? You've got a lot of guys that you see on social media right now that are taking these girls out to these really nice dinners, and then when the check comes and the check's like $300-400, and the guy's like, "So, am I getting laid tonight?" And if she says no, he's like, "Oh, we're splitting the check." If you wasn't coming out here to try to find a genuine connection, then why the fuck you brought her out here to this restaurant and put that damn big ass tab on the bill in the first place? You should have came out to the restaurant and got you the damn endless bread and dang water for like nothing. Take her to Olive Garden and get the bottomless salad. Like, that's all we're gonna eat at this table is a bottomless because if your goal was to get laid, you're gonna take her to this expensive ass restaurant. And we talked about this on the show. What was Saturday night? Like the value of the woman can be gauged based off of how much money it costs to get into her pants. So if the first date is $300 and the second and third date is $300, that's $900. By the fourth date, if she's another $300, that's $1,200. She's worth $1,200. The whole lifespan is worth $1,200. A woman that's willing to save herself until you're willing to commit to her for 20 to 30 years, that's the kind of woman that, if you're going to be paying for her for the next 20 to 30 years, that's a lot more value. You're looking at a few $100,000, $1 million, whatever, worth of value for the same sex, a lifetime partnership. Instead of women putting a price on the interaction itself and put a price on the lifetime, you would find she would, the body counts would be way lower because she would have less people that qualify. Then we park a few blocks down and walk and pay for that. We used to do that in Ybor. We would park the car on, what was it, either 21st or 32nd Street, and then we would walk 30 blocks down to 7th Ave because we were outside of the city limits. No, not outside of city limits. We were outside of downtown, inside of city limits, outside of the neighborhoods where there were no parking signs. So we could just pull up and park on the side of the road. No one's gonna tell. No one's even looking in that area, and then we just walk to the club from the car. Free parking and nice exercise. And because our car is parked outside of the nightlife activity, up like 20 blocks outside of the nightlife activity, we can leave the club during the last call crowded scenario and just walk through the crowd and get to the car way faster than you can get your car out of the parking lot when the traffic jam occurs. So we used to do that a lot of the times. But if you're taking a girl on a date and you want to see what her behavior patterns are and her mentality is about paying for things, even though you normally would have parked 20 blocks down the street so that you wouldn't have to pay, you would park next door to the event and then ask her to cover the tab, ask her to cover the parking. Matter of fact, you sit there and first see if she's going to offer to pay. That should usually take about 30 to 45 seconds. And then You look over and ask her if she's going to cover it. Now, keep in mind, this type of situation could trigger her to end the date instantly, right? But if it does, you dodge the bullet. If it doesn't, if you don't get a second date, you still dodge the bullet. But if it gets you a second date, if she still continues to communicate with you, you can find a little bit more value in this person's ability to put effort into your relationship than it would be just navigating it on your own finances, even if you find the cheapest way to do it. As you get to know someone better, you can start more direct, yet still non intrusive conversations. These aren't about specific numbers, but about philosophies. So try the priority swap. What is one thing you will always be willing to splurge on? And what's something you hate spending money on? This is a brilliant question to ask because this way you can uncover their value system. Someone who splurges on travel but hates spending money on designer clothes has a very different worldview than someone with the opposite priorities. Or use a future version question. For example, fast forward 10 years. Let's say everything went perfectly for you financially. What does your life look like in that moment? Listen to their language. Are they talking in vague fantasies? I'll be rich and I'll be happy. Or are they describing a concrete vision? I'll own a small business. I'll be maxing out my retirement accounts. I'll have freedom to work on projects that I care about. The difference between a dream and a plan is everything, which brings us back to what I told you about having your 20-year plan together. Because if this question was reversed on you, because typically in a relationship in a Q&A dating scenario, if you ask a really good question, they're not going to be able to capitalize that with another question. They're going to follow up with, and what about you? And if your response is better than their response, they're going to feel like a jackass. However, they know that you thought more about this than they did. Which, if the guy is the one that put more thought into it than the lady, she can learn something from you. Now, one of the things that's good about this is that when you have a woman that is willing to learn from you, she does not have to be the smartest person in the room. She just has to be the most cooperative. You can teach a dumb person anything, but you can't teach a hard headed genius nothing, right? So dumb it in a box of rocks. But if you're willing to help her with that and she's willing to follow your instructions, then you will succeed together. Huge difference. Now, later on, if things get serious down the line on your dates, you can try a debt transparency probe. If you talk to your partner about that $10 million question and they started talking about paying off a bunch of debts, you already know that this debt transparency probe can lead you to a lot of answers. Start with something like, I remember feeling so overwhelmed by my student loans after college. It took me a while to figure out a plan. Have you ever had any debt that just felt like it was a huge weight? By starting with the vulnerability that you have, you make it safe for them to share theirs. And this gently opens the door to a conversation that majority of people believe should happen within the first 6 months of dating anyway. And you can pull this hat trick out within the first 3 dates because you run out of stuff to talk about. What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? What do you like to do here? What do you do for fun? What do you do when you're bored? When do you have days off? That's like it. That's it. Do you have any kids? Do you have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? The are you still attached to your last relationship? through financial means, whether you're paying alimony or receiving it. And after you get out of that, do you live with your family or do you live by yourself? All the questions stop. Nothing else to ask, right? But the truth is, there are thousands of questions that you can ask, right? And if you start digging into some of these financial questions, you can find yourself in a position where your partner can show you exactly what you're about to get into, right? These techniques are about gathering information slowly over time in ways that feels less conflictual. They're more natural and they build the connection rather than creating an atmosphere of judgment. It's not going to feel like an interrogation. You're slowly reading the ingredients on their financial label to see if they are compatible with your own. Knowing how to ask is one thing, knowing when to ask is another. You won't discuss marriage on the first date most of the time. You might discuss having children or the desire to have children. And you shouldn't ask for full financial disclosure either. Building financial intimacy is a process that should mirror the growing emotional intimacy of your relationship. Here's a step by step blueprint of that. Start with phase one, your vibe check. This is going to be between date one and date three. The goal of the first few dates is going to be simple: assess their general attitude about money. And this is a time for observation and light, playful questions. Your tools here is prime time for the free date test and the micro bill observations. You can also use fun hypotheticals like, are you more of a natural saver or a natural spender? Or what's the best cheap thrill you've ever had? The key focus here, you want to pay attention to their language. Do they, but then order the most expensive thing on the menu? How do they treat the service from the staff? Do they respect the staff or are they dicks? That's often a powerful indicator of their sense of entitlement and respect for others. You can also look at the size of the tip. If there isn't a big enough tip there, you can assume that they either can't afford it or they do not value the service that they received. And if it was excellent service by observation, you typically want to try to put up at least 22%. 18% is typically like, I did my job kind of thing. I did enough. You didn't have to flag me down, right? But 22% is like, you are at my beck and call kind of thing. So if they got you everything that you needed, you should be looking at like 22%, which like $100 dinner is a $22 tip, which if you're planning this date, you're factoring that in. Now, as the service is less quality, you're looking at, I brought $22 for this server, but I'm taking a few dollars off every time I'm not satisfied with something within reason. Tables dirty, drinks got stains on them, they dropped something in my lap, like legitimate, like everybody would have complained about that kind of scenario. Not like nitpicky, like the fork was on the wrong side of, no, not that. Not that. Like realistic. Like they could have done better kind of thing. Now, some red flags in this situation is entitlement. If they stop at a budget friendly date, females that don't want to go to the Cheesecake Factory or expect you to finance their expensive taste. That's going to be a problem. And that clashes with what most people actually want. For instance, on Hinge, there's a survey found vast majorities of women would rather have a well planned date than a pricey one. Even though they're not going to reject the pricey one, they're not going to follow up on a second date with you because it was a waste of money. A well planned date might be an adventure for them because women like adventure as well as excitement. And that adventure does not have to have a price. So this isn't about being cheap, it's about being grounded. Okay. Phase two, habit check. And this can go far beyond just finances, but checking the habits. This is going to be early exclusivity between dates 4 and dates 10. Once you're exclusive, once you guys lock it in, like y'all are only smashing each other kind of thing, right? Or you're reserving yourselves until marriage, but you're not smashing anyone else. Either way, the conversations can get a bit more concrete. The focus shifts from general vibes to specific habits and goals. Your tools now, you're going to ask things like, do you follow a budget? Or are you more of a go with the flow type? Or you can ask them something like, are you saving up for anything big right now? You can also share one of the things uh, that's on one of your smaller goal lists. Like, I'm trying to save up for a trip to Italy next year. She might be walking and saving up for a car. Just because she said she's saving for a car doesn't mean you need to go buy her one. You want to see if she has a plan. Your key focus here is trying to see if anything exists with a plan. It doesn't need to be a perfect spreadsheet. She doesn't have to be saving for the right things. She could be saving for a prom dress. She could be saving for some expensive shoes. She could be saving for her wedding dress, whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. The fact is she has a plan. That's what you're looking for. There should be some evidence of forward thinking in this person. A partner with no savings plan is a significant concern for a lot of daters. A red flag here is going to be deflection. If you ask about their goals and they give you a non-answer, if they seem uncomfortable talking about the future in concrete terms, it could be a sign that they're hiding something or simply have no plans. I don't know. What do you think? I didn't ask you about me, I asked you about you. Okay. I'm not trying to pass the buck on to anyone else. Um, Significant debt with no clear strategy to pay it off is going to also be a serious issue. Finding out that they had debt that needed to be paid off if they won $10 million leads you to understand that if they don't have a plan saving up to get something they don't have, they should have a plan to pay off the debt that they haven't paid off yet. But if they're cash money millionaires where they're getting paid but their bills are not, the expensive car with no gas in it, and drinks on them in the club, their priorities are not on the right things. Right? Phase three, this is going to be that full disclosure area in the serious commitment range, somewhere around 6 months or more. If you've been talking about moving in together, if the conversation even comes out, thinking about getting engaged or making another major life commitment, taking care of kids, whatever the case may be, it is time for full disclosure. The cards go on the table, every single card, not one ace up the sleeve. No more estimates, no more vagueness. It is time for hard numbers. Your tools here are going to be the requirements for dedicated conversation. You should be prepared to discuss income ranges, specific debts with exclusive numbering. credit card scores, FICO scores, long term goals for retirement. If you haven't been talking about your 20-year plan by 6 months into the relationship, you need to be talking about your 20-year plan. And if your partner is going to be in that 20-year plan, you also need to discuss the mechanics of how you will merge your financial lives together, his or her plan versus your plan, and how you're going to try to do both. Will you combine some accounts, keep some separate, or use a hybrid approach? Recent surveys show that while many couples still combine finances, a huge majority of Gen Z couples keep at least some money separate, showing a new trend towards financial autonomy within a partnership. One of the focuses here is the goal of alignment and teamwork. You have to remember that financial compatibility doesn't mean you earn the same amount of money or have identical spending habits. It means that you agree on a shared plan and are both committed to working towards it. For example, you might be a saver, your partner might be a spender. But if your partner has a spending budget where the rest of the money can still be invested, your partner can spend what she needs to spend or what he needs to spend. And you still have a plan for long term growth. Now, if your partner is the spender and your partner also spends on your behalf, if she's getting you clothes and shoes and the things that you need where you don't have to invest in that as well, or he's getting you the clothes and shoes and colognes and the Prada and the Chanel and stuff that you need so that you don't have to get that for yourself, then the money that you're not spending on yourself, you can invest that so that the budget for spending is still the budget for spending. The dopamine hit for the spender is going to be the dopamine hit whether they spend it on themselves or they spend it on you. So I mean, it's like, well, shit. If you're going to be buying everything, let me make a list, and you get it what you get it. But you guys come to an understanding as to who's saving and investing and who's buying. You know, like I told you guys earlier, if 41% of a man's income is going on his woman and only 23% of that is going on her needs, the other 18% is being wasted. So if you guys decide that beyond her needs, instead of wasting 18% of the income, you probably are going to waste like seven. That puts another 9% more money into the investments. That's a lot more money being put away. If you already had 10% or 20% set aside for investments, if you're putting away an extra 9%, now you're at almost 30. And 30% of your income, 30, 40% of your income, you can see a million in 20 years. You can see a million in 10 years, depending on how much money y'all make. One of the red flags here is and this is going to be an ultimate red flag, a refusal to participate in this process. If your partner is unwilling to be transparent at this stage, you're at the commitment phase, you're at the move-in phase, you're at the let's get married phase, you're at the talk about children phase. It is a monumental problem, not just because you've already put in so much time and effort and there's so much at stake here, but it is one of the first signs towards things falling apart. And the research is going to be clear here. A huge majority of people expect this level of honesty within the first 6 months of the relationship, and the relationship won't last without it. If they're still hiding things, you have to ask, what else are they hiding? Lying about money at 6 months, this is the stage that becomes a deal breaker for most people, and it's going to be for a very good reason. But you also recognize that 6 months in, you're going to spend 6 months fighting over it. And that's a year and 3 months, where the first 3 months was bliss, the next 3 months was work, Now you're fighting because of the lack of transparency, and you fight over it for 6 more months. That's 12 months. And then that last 3 to 5 months, you guys are on the breakup stream. This whole process isn't about killing the romance. You can forever manage romance around financial stability. This is about protecting that romance because nothing kills the mood before or beyond that breakdown of communication when money is concerned. You spent too much at the register. You bought something I didn't know about. You paid for something I didn't approve of. And whatever we were going to do, we're not doing that now. We're going to fight now. So getting this money under control is important because when you're frustrated, when a guy wants to come home and express intimacy to his girl, and he comes across a bill that he didn't know existed, that now he has to get the money for to pay, his frustration and resentment kills that vibe. Then he comes home and he doesn't even want to talk to her because she did something that he didn't know about, but he doesn't want to lash out on her. Now he's not communicating. She doesn't know what's going on. She's going to blame herself. It is kind of her fault. She might even make excuses about it, and this is going to spiral what could have been a good night into a bad night. And to many of those, you're only going to remember the negative ones. You're not going to remember the good ones, right? So unspoken financial tension is a cancer in a relationship. It erodes intimacy, both emotionally and physically. And it turns small disagreements into massive drag down fights. Having these conversations, as awkward as they might be, at the first half of the date, at the first half of the relationship, is an act of profound love and respect for the other person. It is saying that I value our future, such as it may be, enough to tackle the uncomfortable stuff first. And I'm going to be honest with you. If I ever do go on a date and I'm paying for the date, one thing's for sure. You know I'm paying for the date because I paid for it as soon as you ordered it. Like hands down, it- appetizers, entrees, and desserts. The specific number of drinks each person's going to have. All of it comes out the first time the waiter or waitress asks, "What can I get for you?" And then after that person finished writing everything down, I hand them the credit card and say, "Let me get the check." That's it. That's all we get. And whatever we asked for just now, that's all we're getting. I do this for two reasons. One, I'm not going to have a bottomless tab. Two, for any reason, if we leave this restaurant, I am not going to be stuck with more than what I just agreed to. If I decide to get up and walk away, I already paid, right? In situations where you have family and friends involved and there's a family emergency, if you already paid the check, you don't have to wait that extra 15 minutes to pay the check. If you get the check paid before the main dish comes to the table, if you could get the check paid before the first plate comes to the table, if at any point during this interaction you've got to walk out of this restaurant, you already paid for it. Now, that does not work well with the observation of seeing if the other person might pay, but that dynamic of eliminating delays towards my exit is a mentality that could be discussed during a date. Being the person that has to leave at the drop of a hat, like a doctor or something like that, police officer. I gotta go. A lot of times, you might just leave the payment option with the other person because you don't have time to catch the check. I don't have to do that. I can just cover it now while I'm here. And if I gotta go, make mine to go, give it to her, and I'll meet her later. And then I will go and then come back and get it at the house. Right? That leaves a lot more maneuverability. Not a lot of people think about that. But it also allows you to understand that I'm not paying for shit else. So if we ordered $50 worth of stuff at the beginning of the date, I already paid. Now, if she wants anything else after I bought what I bought at the beginning of the date, that's fine. I already paid. She can buy whatever the fuck she wants. I already paid, right? This is the stuff that people don't think about. Now, here's going to be the hopeful part about this because financial compatibility isn't always something that you find. It is more often than not something that you build. So you may not be financially compatible, but if you're willing to grow and change for the better, it can still work. Some studies show that more than half of couples actually become more financially compatible over time by working together and setting shared goals. So you can find a person that's fiscally irresponsible if you decided to stay with them, but they were willing to change their behavior patterns. They could become fiscally responsible and still acquire some of the things that they otherwise would have wanted. You're looking for a partner, not a perfect financial specimen. You are looking for someone who's willing to be on your team, not somebody that you can control and dominate. So the third wheel at the table doesn't have to be your enemy. It doesn't have to be a silent puppeteer steering your love life towards an icebreaker. And we've seen the money is the invisible guest on every date, influencing your choices even before the date starts, whether you've seen it or not. And we've seen that ignoring it out of fear or awkwardness is one of the riskiest things that you can do. Most importantly, we've seen that you have the power to take control of that. You do it by starting with yourself, understanding your own money story. You do it by becoming a gentle detective, using smart questions and careful observations to understand your partner's financial DNA. And you do it by following a blueprint for financial intimacy, matching your money conversation to your emotional connection. This is how you transform money from a source of conflict into tools for collaborations. This is how you make sure you and your partner are building a life on solid rock, not on shifting sands. Now, this goal isn't to find someone who is perfect with money. The goal is to find someone who is perfect for you, and that includes being able to navigate the financial realities of life together as a team instead of battling against each other. Now, I want to hear from you guys. This topic is so personal and it often is so hidden. What is the single biggest financial red flag that you've ever encountered on a date? Or on the flip side, what is the best way you found to bring up money without making it weird? Share your stories and your wisdom and put that stuff in the comments. The more that we talk about this, the less power the third wheel has over all of our financial decisions. Now, I want to tell you guys one more time if this conversation was helpful for you, make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't done so, hit the like button on the show if you haven't done so. Take a look at the membership because we got a lot more financial information rolling out in the membership. I got a lot of stuff coming up. And actually, now we've got to start putting some of the values up there for gold, silver, and uranium. We're going to be watching that stuff coming up. Uh, we've got a pretty thick because if you look at the show right now, we've got probably the next 10 to 14 days up there already, and we're going to be putting up a lot more coming soon. So I want you guys to pay attention to that and follow along with that. I want to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, I give y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men. Um, One of the biggest things that I preach about every night is that we have to find the things that are inside of our control that we do not like and proactively put forth the effort to change them to improve the standard of living that we have and then navigate around the things that are outside of our control. Okay. And ladies, While this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can benefit from the information that I give you guys on a daily, weekly, nightly basis, specifically because if you're not a man that I am telling to improve yourself, you are listening to men talk about improving themselves, and you can find ways to improve how you interact with these men that are improving themselves. This is one of the fundamental key traits of the show because you ladies are sisters, you ladies are mothers, some of y'all are even daughters of men that can benefit from this. And if you proactively use this information to help the men around you become better men, you actually build a better generation of men for all of y'all to choose from, right? You want higher value men, higher quality men, and yet society is not breeding that. Here on this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, that is exactly what we're doing. Is breeding a new generation of men that hold themselves to a higher standard, that carry themselves with intent. But ladies, this is going to come at a cost because while women's expectations have risen, the performance has not. And as the men rise to the occasion to meet the expectations of women, so will the standards of those men. It'll no longer be about an attractive girl that's putting out. She is going to have more to offer this relationship than sex. It is what it is. It's easy for you to get a car cash up front. It ain't worth much, but you got to start having a high income. You got to start having good credit scores. You got to have good payment history in order to get that brand new expensive car. Likewise, it's easy to get a man that ain't shit. Don't got to do much. But a man that's worth something, the man that all the ladies want, you have to bring something to the table that the other women aren't bringing to the table. And if all the women are bringing sex to the table, what else do you have to offer in that relationship? And you can navigate that because the first thing that you can bring to the table is having a damn plan, which is why I tell you figure out what you want to do with your life, figure out what you want your 20-year plan to look like. Where do you want to be at? We're in 2026. You plan on still being alive in 2046. Where do you see yourself in 2026? What kind of job do you have? What kind of retirement do you have? What kind of lifestyle are you living? What kind of responsibilities do you have? What kind of financial freedom do you have? What kind of free time do you have? Are you doing this on your own? Are you surrounded by family and friends? Do you have a legacy with you? Figuring this out allows you to figure out how much that costs, figure out how much effort it takes to get there, and then figure out what you got to do to get to the effort that it takes to get there, and then start putting together your 20-year plan and putting that effort into getting it done. As you move through your 20-year plan, when you meet other individuals that have a 20-year plan, your rationalization, and I'm still talking to the ladies, your rationalization now is will his 20-year plan mesh with my 20-year plan? It ain't about how much money is in his wallet. Does where he want to be at in 2026 or 2046 match where I want to be at? Right? When I reach retirement age, is his plans for my future the same as my plans for my future? And I say it like that because when you accept him for his decision making skills, his planning, you're accepting the future that he has to offer. That's the business proposal. That's the stock option. You're investing in a future with him. So you need to know where his future is going to be. And if he doesn't know, you can help him get there, but y'all have to make a plan together. But you got to have a plan in order for y'all to make a plan together. How does the offense and defense work together if the offense doesn't already have an offensive playbook? You guys got to start somewhere. Now, with that being said, I want y'all to know we're going to be here live every night of the week. We're going to try to start closer to the top of the hour tomorrow. We've been here for about 2.5 hours. Make sure that y'all swing back around. I'm going to say thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.